Now, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm delighted to have Stephanie with us, and my pleasure to introduce Stephanie. And I suppose this latest conversation in the community of practice, it came out of our February community of practice, where people will remember that we had Robert McGilliff-Forick with us. Robert was and is the founder of the Talent Summit, and he came to talk to us on the broad theme of talent, technology, and turbulence. And arising from Robert's chat with us at the community of practice, a number of us actually had the privilege and pleasure of attending the Talent Summit 2024 in the National Convention Centre. And one of the most compelling speakers at that event on that day was Stephanie Prenderville. And when Claire and I heard Stephanie talk about AI and in particular and the talent pipeline, we just knew that we had to get Stephanie here to our community of practice. So Stephanie, delighted you're here with us today, and my pleasure to formally introduce you to those who haven't heard you speak before or don't know you. Stephanie Prenderville is a former Chief People Officer. She is now a disruption and transformation consultant. She's an expert on AI enablement, and she's a board advisor. She has a passion, and we were talking about this before we came online. She has a passion about providing bespoke people services to top leadership teams. And she's got expertise in terms of the opportunities and the impact of AI and digital transformation on people, on the culture of organizations and organizational designs. And I know that's something that's of interest to all of you. So before I pass over to you, Stephanie, just to remind our audience, Stephanie has agreed that she will, as well as doing our presentation, kindly take some questions as well. So I will ask people if they can put those questions into the chat function, and we'll try and get through as many of those as possible. But the floor is yours, Stephanie, and thanks again for joining us, and thanks for your patience as we struggled there with the tech as well.
Absolutely. It's great. We can move into a modern world of AI, but still trying to figure out how teams work is beyond, I think, the sharpest minds on the planet at this stage. So
it can be difficult. It can be difficult.
Delighted. So let me try to share my screen and see if I can't put the slide deck in the right place here. And there we go. Can you guys see okay?
We're seeing that, Stephanie. AI in the talent pipeline, employer challenges, evolutionary to revolutionary. So we're all good.
That's great. Guys, look, I'm really delighted to be here today. I was saying to Brian and Mary right before we came online live, I'm a really big believer in purpose. And that might sound a little bit cliche and a bit overused at the moment, but for this particular audience, I thought it was very relevant for you as educators, both in organizations and in the education system itself, to share with you that this is my own purpose, to really help people and organizations learn and grow. And the current barriers to AI, in my opinion, are very much about the lack of skills and the lack of know-how that we have both in the education system and in industry. And it's why I leapt at the opportunity to be able to come and speak with you today. So I really wanted to tell you about the kind of story of where we are with AI at the moment. And I wanted to tell it to you from as a protagonist, the chief people officer or the HR director kind of perspective, where we are, I'll say, blessed and cursed, as you often are as the protagonist in a story. We see both the employer point of view and the employee point of view. And the story of AI and those two views being often at odds with each other, it's no different in the AI story. So from an employer perspective, that skill gap, that lack of know-how, is stopping organizations through fear from moving forward with really embracing what the current potential of AI is, and even from doing some meaningful exploration. Whereas on the employee side, they are driving a pace of adoption even outside of the governance that organizations are putting in place. So employees are really using AI probably far more than they're being authorized to use, and probably far more than a lot of organizations recognize. But this is where this community of practice really has an opportunity to make a difference, and that's to reduce down that fear by closing that skill gap and really helping organizations prepare for the future, but also to help our students of our employees of the future get ready for an AI-enabled environment. So from that perspective, I really wanted to talk about, with this contrast of where employers and employers are coming from, where are we in the adoption side of things with AI? Where are we in the story? Well, as you can see from the slide that I have behind me, we're very much piloting AI. So when I say organizations are afraid, many have taken the step to actually move forward with piloting, which is great. And loads of them are piloting some type of a query tool, a chat bot, an Ask HR type of tool. And those are working really, really well. They are low risk. They have a high impact because they help all the employees across the organization know what did I get my last payroll and how much vacation do I have, which is what people want to know the most. And they're able to ask kind of basic everyday questions, and it frees up loads of HR time. So the pilots are working, but they're also delivering a lot of really unexpected insights that I think are really slowing down organizations from adopting AI. And I don't think those insights should be unexpected. I'm hearing about it so frequently. I think organizations who are entering into pilots, particularly whether it's Ask HR or whether it's any other type of pilot, organizations are seeing greater level of information. And the key things they're seeing is that Gen Z and Gen Millennials within their workforce are using AI more than 50% of the time to get their day-to-day work done. So probably well beyond what your current organizational policy looks like, and well beyond what people expected that current use to be. And that's well ahead of where the pilots are. So we're saying, follow what we're giving you as a structure for a pilot, but the horse is bolted, particularly with the Gen Z and the millennial groups. The other insights that are coming from the pilots are that we have a very low tech adoption culture across most organizations, irrespective of industry. Now, it may be higher within the tech industries or with industries that are very tech dependent, very tech savvy. But most organizations are not using their ERP that well. They're not using their HR systems well. Employees and managers often say, I'd rather have a conversation than go through doing my performance review online. HR, absolutely. It's so painful to try to download data from our HR systems and turn it into meaningful insights that we can actually report on. And none of our systems within organizations are connected with each other at the moment. And the third big insight that's coming out of these pilots is that we don't have enough AI knowledge and expertise in-house. So the combination of these things is creating tension within the work environment. Tension is what you have in a good story. So we've got a great story here that's a page turner because we're wanting to see, are we going to get to a more happy end? This tension is really creating a crisis for us, particularly in HR, since I'm telling it through the lens of the CPO and HRD, but it's very similar for other parts of the organization. From an HR perspective, the crisis is the HR frameworks that we have in place are no longer fit for purpose. The fundamentals in how we get work done is going to change so radically with AI being augmented into our human roles, to where we have humans getting AI to do the repetitive, mundane, administrative tasks that free us up to do value add. That's going to allow us to reshape what our roles do. It's going to allow us to change our reporting lines. It's going to allow us to change organization structures and create a whole different level of value within the organization. That is such a radical change that everything that we have in our current HR frameworks is based on known processes led by humans. We're now entering an era of humans and machines figuring out new ways of doing things. So the way that you do performance management, it's not going to apply anymore. The way that, therefore, you think about your talent systems and your succession planning, that's all based around current performance approaches based on current work processes. That's all going to have to change. The way that we reward and incentivize is all based on performance and the way that we currently get work done. So you can see the knock-on effects that are here. So we have a huge opportunity as educators to recognize that with employees driving the adoption and organizations struggling to keep up, we can help both our student populations, our employee populations, and our leaders and organizations recognize we are in the era of revolution and not evolution. AI is not going to stay in a box and wait for us to catch up with our learning. It's going to continue to absolutely trailblaze and go as quickly as possible. But there's a lot of things that we have at our fingertips to be able to leverage our own strengths in developing people, developing organizations, and bringing out new ways of learning using AI, but also leveraging AI. And I really want to talk to you about how we can go about doing that, some of the things that we can do, and how we can make sure that we leverage the efficiency that the people who are using AI in the organization are gaining, but the risks that they're placing the organizations at, where they're doing it outside of safety parameters, where they may be risking the organization's IP, GDPR, cybersecurity, data breaches. So let's have a look at what it is that we can do within the organization, within the education system. So I wanted to start by looking at some of the strengths that we can actually leverage. I'm trying to sit at a place where you can actually see over my shoulder. So there's 3 myths that are really predominant this year that I want to be able to bust with you to put you in more of an empowered seat at the table here. The first one is that AI is not going to take your job, but the person who knows AI will. That very much applies in an enterprise and an industry context. And I've been saying to HR leaders, if you don't understand AI and just the basics on how machine learning works and what the opportunities for AI are, and where different types of AI work for different types of processes and different types of functions within an organization, how are you going to be able to have a seat at the table when the organization design decisions are made, when the changes to performance management, when the changes to remuneration, when the changes to how we change our workflow, and actually how we help employees have a sense of trust in the transparency on the decisions that we're taking? HR has to be in a great place for that. And I'd say the same thing for educators. When you're looking at changing your course materials and really making AI clear and usable and preparing your students for moving into an AI world, you have to understand it. The second myth is that this year, and probably going into 2025, so the next 12, 18 months, our focus really isn't on what is the right technology with AI. It's what is the right people and leadership approach to understand what the right technology opportunities are. It may be AI, it may be other technology, it may be process automation. It may be something that already exists that's very simple. It may be process change. It may be data management changes. So there's things that may be digital, may not be digital, may be AI fueled, may not be AI fueled. But that's a leadership and a people question, more so than it is around technology. Start with thinking about what the company's vision, mission, and values are, or what the educational institution is trying to achieve. How do you improve the employee or the student experience? How do you improve the customer or the student experience? That's ultimately what we're trying to understand right now, and then how AI fits in versus the other way around. And the third myth is around people thinking and being told by some very credible, forward-leading organizations in the AI space that you have to have data in a really good shape to be, it has to be clean, it has to be non-broken, it has to be tidy in order to use AI. And that's actually just not true. And without any disrespect to some of the potential sponsors that we have in this space, it may be a very helpful argument as large organizations are scrambling to commercialize what they're offering out to the industry. Right now, a lot of what's out there isn't highly scalable and it's very expensive. And the organizations who are providing us with solutions which are much needed and very valued are very expensive at the moment. But you can still move forward with your data and with AI in its current state. It just takes a little bit more work. What's a great opportunity in 2024 and 2025 is understanding the data that you need and the data that you have, and how you can actually get to what is it you need, and how it's going to bring you a competitive difference, and how it's going to help in terms of understanding what AI's capabilities can actually be. So those three myths: it won't take your job, but AI, the people who know AI will. It's all about people and leadership, and it's all about understanding data. That will help us to accelerate with those three myths busted in mind. That will help us to accelerate how we as educators and industry educators and leaders can build the capability within organizations. And there's 5 areas that I would implore you to focus on for that acceleration. I'm just keeping my eye on the clock because I get very excited about this topic and I can just go on for days. And Brian or Mary, if you need to jump in and just tell me to hurry on, I will do.
No, we're great. We're great in time, Stephanie, and this is brilliant. Please keep going. Please keep going.
Stuff. Great stuff. And I can't see anybody else, so I'm a little bit blind here. If you guys need to interrupt, just do that. So what is it that we can actually do to harness the ability of AI, reduce fear, and bring a hands-on understanding of AI to really move things forward? Well, we are the folks that understand, and I'd actually say you as educators, even more so than those of us in industry who've taken the opportunity like I have to really understand AI. You understand AI, or you're at least in the communities of practice who understand AI better than the average bear. You are tapped into the experts, and we need to leverage that insight and those understandings to build fluency around understanding AI and data and what it can and what it can't do, and what it's good at doing and what it's not good at doing. So AI, for those of you who don't know, it's really bad at math. AI, out of the blocks, ChatGPT, don't ask it a math question. It'll get it wrong more often than it gets it right, because generative AI generates new thoughts, new ideas. It doesn't add 2 + 2. It looks at 2 + 2 and it questions, it predicts what it thinks is the next answer that you want to hear. It might get 4 right because it thinks that's what you want, but it's not accurate in that. And maths have to be accurate. But it's great at understanding sentiment. It's great at looking at employee survey data and understanding what are the insights that are coming out of the statistical data and what's coming out of the qualitative data that used to take us weeks, if not months, and very expensive organization behavioral psychologists to be able to analyze. So building data fluency and AI fluency is a huge starting point for us that we should be plugging right into what we do in organizations and in our course materials from 2024 as quickly as possible. We're all learning together. It's just getting started on that journey. The next one is around embracing what I would call a new power triangle. In the past, and not to say that it's not still relevant, but in the recent past, you've had a power triangle within many organizations of the CEO, the CFO, and the Chief People Officer, determining the direction of travel, the strategy, the spend, and therefore how that impacts the people and the expectations around people, vision, mission, values, to be able to deliver customer experience, employee experience. What's now happened is the role of the Chief Information Officer and Chief Technology Officer has risen dramatically. And the Chief People Officer is struggling to catch up to try to figure out how AI impacts and their own understanding of AI and how it can be brought into the organization. And the CEO trying to look like they know what's going on and honestly not being able, to figure it out either. The three, and nobody really, understands, nobody gets this all that well except for, a couple dozen people around the planet. So don't feel like you're behind on the curve, but embrace the fact that this is a new power triangle. And we need to help organizations come together to bring that space so that people and technology are helping together to drive that direction of travel so that we're augmenting people's skills so that we can figure out the new ways between the juncture of human skills and technical skills. What's the best way of getting the both of both worlds? There could be a small number of roles that we will no longer need because of AI, but the number of roles that we are going to create from what AI can do on the efficiency side are far greater. And the roles that we will see less of are the kind of roles that most people don't really enjoy. They're very administrative, they're very mundane. So embrace what that power triangle can do, and let's really pull together to help get them on the same page together so that they can really empower the organization. The third is around, if we think back to the point I've made a number of times, how do we use AI to really deliver better employee experience and customer experience? There's a level of critical analysis we need to help our students and our current employees apply to AI. Is it the right technology? Is a calculator going to be better for maths? Is AI going to be the right thing to help improve what performance management tools that we already have can do? It's already built into recruitment and making a huge difference in our recruitment. What else can AI do for us? But it's not just buying what you're hearing off the shelf or buying what you're hearing in the media. It's applying critical analytical skills to really understanding how you test, trial, analyze, report, prioritize, etc. The fourth is really around building human skills, which I call the power skills. And I'll come back to that in a second and describe what those are. And the fifth is really about building innovation skills. This is pretty complicated to do, but what we're really trying to do is build curiosity, build critical thinking skills, allow us to get into that hypothesis and test process that I just mentioned above, as well as trying to find where can AI help us provide solutions that other technology can't? Where can humans do what machines can't do? And what is the intersection between the two? So we're trying to build our innovation skills fueled by our curiosity and our critical thinking to figure out what that intersection is and how we actually get to the best balance of those. That's really where it is that we're trying to accelerate things. And those are 5 things that I think we all have in this community to be able to act on. So let me delve into what those human skills are that I mentioned. What do those look like? And what would I suggest both within an organization and within the education community that you would really build here? On the left, you see a column on these power skills, which used to be called soft skills. And I don't think many people call them soft anymore. They're the hardest things to be able to build. And they actually are the ones that make the biggest difference in organizations. So post-COVID, there's been tons of research that's come out from Forbes and Harvard Business Review and McKinsey, Accenture, talking about empathy, curiosity, authenticity, particularly from leadership perspective, collaboration, agility, critical thinking. There's probably about another 5 or 6, but those 6 are the ones that I hear more and more that are most heavily weighted, that have the biggest impacts on organizations and being able to achieve the agility and the genuineness and the trust that we need in organizations to really embrace this revolutionary technology. That will allow us to build a culture of enablement. And if we don't have a culture that embraces AI, and we have a culture that doesn't trust AI, that's afraid it's going to take our roles, that isn't a people first culture, it's going to fall on its backside in being able to try to deliver on better employee experience, on better customer experience. So building that trust is key, and demonstrating those power skills is critical to building trust and having those be genuine. And I think our Gen Z and our millennials are such a brilliant place to start, because those are the skills that they bring to the table. And they're the ones that are at risk of being drowned out by current norms within organizations, which are far more practical, tangible, and black and white than some of the more human aspects that these power skills demonstrate. Our tech adoption, the one that I mentioned earlier, in order to get that tech adoption shifting, we have to create this culture of enablement. Therefore, we have to trial, and we have to recognize that in this culture of enablement, data is our new currency. Understanding what data can do for us. Data is as valuable monetarily as it is as anything else within the AI sphere. And really getting a handle on your data in 2024, 2025 is the key to unlocking this culture of enablement. We have our data now, we can start with that now. And then to continue this focus on people and capability building, and this, I didn't mention the timeline, as it says in the top. We can do this now, we can start this now, and it's really about doing this over the next 2 to 5 years. I can't see beyond 5 years, and I doubt you can either, so that's the timeline I'm putting on this. The power skills, the culture of enablement will allow us to lead transformation, which in this context is really about leading revolution. And that means we're bringing in readiness to the organization, readiness to our students. That's emotional readiness. That's talking about the things that people are worried about, understanding what's blocking them around trust, making sure they have the skills, making sure that they have a voice, making sure that they feel supported, and that they can make mistakes and that they can learn in a safe environment. And the mindset around understanding what the barriers are, that it's led from the top, that it's well communicated. That will allow us to trial new workflows and new reporting lines and build the AI and data muscle within organizations and within educational institutions that are going to really help us build out on our people capabilities. And if there's anything else I can say to inspire you in this space, is when it comes to trying to develop these skills, build that culture, lead this transformation, I don't think we've completely cracked the nut as educators on how do you unlock curiosity and creativity and empathy in and authenticity in people. And those skills are the ones that are most pivotal in allowing us to think out of the box, work with AI, and know, where does the human need to stay in the loop? Where can we trust AI? And how can we apply AI to solve our problems to get to that better employee experience and customer experience? So we need real innovation. And that's where I think this community of practice has the opportunity to make an impact that will really make quite a big difference. So if I sum up then, the key takeaways that I have, I put in a broader set of icons here on what I would see as power skills and human skills. But the key takeaways here in applying those is recognize we need to throw out our current HR playbook, because it's all based on current human-led ways of managing work that's going to be replaced with AI augmented ways of working. And we need to replace that HR playbook with the human skills. That means that we're going to have to redesign performance management, reward, DE&I structures, attraction, retention, etc. We're going to have to make radical changes to learning and development, etc., and be guided by our human skills. So we can't get started soon enough on that. We have a strength and an opportunity as educators to leverage our ability to drive that skills development, which will allow us to build capabilities, culture, and readiness. If we start now, we're going to get an opportunity that's going to make a difference to our education system and to our organizations in Ireland. And I think that we're going to be able to make a huge difference. So I'm going to stop there and go back into full screen rather than sharing my slides, and join back the group and jump into the Q&A and any comments that you have.
Stephanie, thanks so much, and I think you could talk all day on this, and I certainly know that I certainly know I could listen to you all day on this as well. That was super, because we got a taster at the Talent Summit where you had a limited time, and it was great that you had a little bit more time to delve deeper into the issues today. But that was superb, and a superb presentation, and it was wide ranging, and I suppose telling us where we are at in terms of with AI, which is uncharted territory. And I do want to come back to that, and then how we plot a sane and sensible path forward, and what you said in terms of the myths and accelerating our capabilities as well. That all seems very relevant to me. I think already I'm seeing the comments coming into the chat with lots of praise and lots of love for what you've said here, Stephanie. So I will ask people if you do want to put questions in, but I suppose just I'm going to ask a question, and it's back to where we're at, Stephanie, because I'm fascinated by this, that it is uncharted territory, as you said. It's a revolution out there, and the pace of change with AI is huge, and it's just, as you said, it's trailblazing ahead, and there's no going back. We're not going to be able to put the genie of AI back into the lantern, and maybe nor should we. And I'm interested in that chasm that there is between employees who are beavering away, particularly young people beavering away with AI, and employers and organizations, enterprises, colleges, which maybe have not caught up. And I do know that the European Commission, they brought in legislation recently on AI, but is one of the problems that organizations have that new framework that you're talking about, Stephanie, the new intersection between humans and machines. The framework before was HR policies, which were human resources policies. Now we're talking about human and machine resources. And I suppose, is there a deficit in terms of policy in organizations? And I suppose, not to put the blame on organizations, that also in terms of we need to work ahead here. I mean, we've great employee legislation here in terms of Ireland, workplace relations legislation in terms of, but are we running behind now in terms of AI? And is that something that our legislators need to catch up on it as well? And will that help?
It's a really good question, Brian, and there's a lot to unpick there.
Sure.
I
Sure.
think the new EU legislation and what's also coming out of the UK, it's in many ways it's more forward thinking than a lot of people expected, because it's really trying to come at it from the perspective of the ownership around monitoring challenges and safety with AI goes back to the product developers who we would have traditionally thought of as software developers. So it's not putting as much onus on the organizations themselves as it is the AI IP owners. But that means it leaves organizations in a space to be able to create, which is good, but they still have to be GDPR compliant. And where a lot of organizations, while they're trying to figure out what's going on, have kind of locked things down and said, either you can't use AI at all, or only this group of people can use AI, or you can only go onto these sites to be able to use it, or they've started to build their own AI models and use them in-house. Where there's an opportunity for immediate policy that's quite turnkey, that will kind of get you out of this maybe golden cage that we've locked ourselves in, where employees aren't necessarily following that. They're using their own devices to go around that and still do work for themselves. If we understand what our risk is, depending on the organization and type of organization that we're in, the risk could either be around the IP, the cybersecurity, GDPR issues, data issues. And if you there's about 10 things that I'm happy to share with this group as a follow-on of just do's and don'ts inside an organization. Never share your organization's copyright information. Never share any of your intellectual property. Never share any of your financial data. Never put a pitch up online. Never put employee data up online. Never put your children's names. Don't use your own last name. But what you can do is you can actually take a company report in a Word document. You can find and replace the name of your company, rename your company X or Y or whatever you want to call it. You can take the names of individuals or names of functions or anything that's sensitive. You can replace it with your own code, save it as an anonymized document. You can then share that in a public chat GPT, as long as there's nothing really proprietary in the rest of the comments, and use that to start to ask ChatGPT questions that are good at what AI can do if you don't have an in-house model. So there's certain things that you actually can do, but you just need to be smart about it. And you do need to set up an AI governance or an AI commission in-house to make sure that you're putting the right guide rails in place that employees can actually stick to. And the other thing I would do to pick up on another one of your points, Brian, is this is where our reverse mentoring becomes really, really relevant. Let's tap into our Gen Z and our millennials as the rest of the organization who aren't adapting. And I'm not saying that all Gen Z and all millennials, because that would be too stereotyping, but in the main, 35% of more than 50% of Gen Z and millennials are using AI more than 50% of the time in their roles at work, whether they're supposed to or not.
Sure.
So if we tap into the 50% who are using, and the ones who really have good insights, to teach the rest of us who aren't using it that well, how are you saving time? What are you doing in your calendar with it? How are you writing better reports? And we break it into functional areas or common skills, common task areas. You go into workshops and you learn, well, if this is what you're doing and that works within our security parameters, that's an immediately productivity lock. Let's do a pilot. And there you're off with a use case of low risk, high return. So right now, it's very much about trialing. And there's more companies trialing than have gone into production, but there's still so many companies that aren't even trialing. So that's where I really want to motivate this audience is to get into a trialing space.
Yeah, I love that analogy you have, Stephanie, about us being locked in a golden cage, and that people will get around it by using their own devices. What you said about the do's, the do's and the don't list, you have the common sense, and sometimes common sense isn't that common. But I think it would be we'd love to get our hands on the do's and don'ts there as well, because obviously colleagues are using it anyway, and that would be really, really helpful. I probably have loads of questions I'd like to ask, but I don't want to hog it, so I'm going to go to the chat here, and I see a question come in from Kevin O'Rourke, who I think is talking about a disconnect that was there pre-pandemic. Kevin is talking about one of the big problems surrounding digital transformation lay in the fact that many senior managers didn't understand digital and therefore did not grasp or grab its importance to their organizations. And he's saying that the rise of generation AI, maybe that's going to push these senior managers to be even further removed from the current digital reality. And so the response is reaction rather than positive action. And he's saying, have you any tips for how we might address this issue in academia and in enterprise? So that's a wide-ranging question there from Kevin.
It's a great question though, and it actually follows on very nicely to the point I was making on reverse mentoring. I really think by tapping into generation AI, as Kevin is describing them, is one of the best ways. Fear often comes from lack of awareness. And I started doing surveys with chief people officers and HR directors about back in September, October. So we're getting on, 9 months or so. And I've seen a shift in the question that I asked, which was, how many of you think that AI is the greatest technology that's ever been out there? You think that it's okay, but you don't really get it or know how to really use it. You're not comfortable with it, or you're afraid of it. And the correlation of the people who were afraid of it and who hadn't used it was absolutely clear versus the people who thought it was the greatest technology that we'd ever seen and the people who understood it. So the more you understand it, the more you familiarize yourself with it, the more you're actually going to understand what the opportunities are. And some of that just comes down to like simple trialing. And if you follow those practical do's and don'ts, you'll be able to trial it and get up to speed with it without actually putting yourself or your organization at risk. So it's a simple question of investing an hour a week. If you put an hour a week in of dedicated time to understanding AI and use it in your own life, make it practical and relevant to you, you'll be amazed how much you learn within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary because I'm relatively new to the phenomenon, but after trying it out, it's amazing what you can use it for, and even just to give a summary of something, or it certainly will make life easy. And anyone who is out there who hasn't tried ChatGPT or one of the other related devices, I would say have a go at it. A question here, Stephanie, from my colleague Dee Duffy, and Dee is asking if you can suggest any short or immediate term actions that universities can take to support enterprises or companies to address the AI skill gaps in their workforce. So it's, I suppose, how can we as universities help the world of work and business?
I'd latch on to that new power triangle and really approach inviting forums for the CEO, chief information, chief data, chief technology officer equivalent, and chief people officer, and facilitate on their behalf their understanding of AI, where they have gaps in their organization, and what you can bring in as educators immediately into the classroom, and bring that back to the classroom. Just by facilitating that conversation in an organization as an independent third party will give them insights and will help them to understand opportunities for their own direction of travel. But then you can bring that direction of travel back into your classroom and inspire your students to say, this is what current organizations are struggling with. Students love nothing more than sinking their teeth into a problem that current employers have that current employees haven't figured out yet. They see themselves as the next heroes coming down the line. So work that energy and be that independent facilitator to help bring organizations into that new power triangle and just help them to get their heads around it, because they haven't taken that step yet. So many organizations, the CEO is going one direction, chief operations going one direction, finance going one direction, HR another direction. Help bring that power triangle together and offer to facilitate that with some of the AI experts that you have within your university to help them understand how AI works. They don't have to understand all the detailed stuff, just what it means for an organization.
Sure. And can I ask you, Stephanie, in terms of, I know a lot of colleagues here who we've chatted to about AI, and we'll be doing another event on AI in June, which I'll talk about before we finish up. But in terms of, I suppose, their day-to-day roles and our day-to-day interaction with students, I know colleagues are quite concerned about issues around plagiarism and, you know, how students are using it, maybe to short track on learning as well. Is there anything you can tell us about what we should do there? Is it to be more smart around our assessments, or what would be a good way forward for us?
It is such a challenge. I do have some thoughts, but I'll say up front, my thoughts are based on the belief that people have massive amounts of potential that they haven't unlocked yet. And if I think about myself as a 20-something-year-old or late teens student, I'm not sure I had that maturity at that stage that I have at this stage. So I might be projecting solutions that I think work for me at this point in my life that may not be as practical for younger students, but I'll give it a go anyway. Yes, there is an immediate cheat sheet available to students by tapping into AI. But what you're cheating is yourself in the long run, because you're not learning how to critically think. You're not learning how to do your own research. You're not actually learning how to do your own footnotes. You're not learning how to have debate with your peers in a human environment. And you're not using AI, in my opinion, in its best. You're relying on HR to be smarter and better than you are, rather than actually using your own brain and your own capability, and then using AI to challenge you to improve your own thinking. AI is currently not as smart as we are. Yes, it might be able to play chess better than some of the best chess experts, but that's an AI large language model that has been taught and refined repeatedly over and over and over and over again. And AI doesn't sleep. All it does is eat data and learn and reiterate better and better and predict better 24/7. People eat and sleep. And if you're a student, you're probably having a little bit more fun in between the eating and the sleeping and the learning. If you just rely on AI to get to an answer, and you don't allow yourself to grow your brain and to learn, but use AI as a partner to learn even better, to learn even faster, but make it the secondary way that you learn rather than the primary way you learn, you're only cheating yourself. And if we end up having generation after generation where AI is the one who leads our learning, we are very quickly going to become the less smart species in this formula. So we're going to bring about our own laziness by not actually being smart learners.
Yeah, so I mean, what you're saying there, Stephanie, is, I mean, it's the opportunities and the threats that are there. I've one final question, which is the person has sent it to me directly. I don't know why, rather than put it into the chat. And I suppose it's a good question. I'm going to slightly add to it. The question is, where does Stephanie see us in terms of 5 years' time? I know you said none of us can see that, but are we going to be? And I'm going to add to the question and say, are we going to be in a space where companies will have enough knowledge of AI in-house, and those tensions that are there at the moment because there's no rules, there's no regulations. It's sort of the Wild West out there in terms of no rules and regulation. Are we going to have resolved that by then?
I think we're going to be in a case of have and have nots. And not to be a scaremonger, but I honestly think that while we're seeing the technology go a million miles an hour, but where our education and our organization curve is much, much slower at the moment, we're going to see that education and organization curve start to catch up with the AI technical curve for the organizations who take the step to close these gaps that I've described fastest, who take the step to pilot, who take the step to move from pilot to production and to get to building their AI and their data management muscle. They're going to exponentially outpace the competition that stay at the slower, more fearful, waiting for the trend to give them a safer map. That's going to create such a huge divide that the companies that are on this curve are going to start to gobble up the competition. And I think in 5 years' time, we are going to see a massive compression of organizations and educational institutions. The ones that don't move fast enough are going to get gobbled up and taken over and swallowed up by the ones that are ahead. And that means we are going to have a fear of the monopoly of fewer and fewer creative and diverse inputs. And it's why I think it's so critically important that we all take really big steps now to trial it, to learn it, to do it in a safe way, to get out there and not let fear keep us in the way, but to do this in a very smart way. Or else I do fear that we're going to miss a really important window.
Yeah, and I mean what you're saying there about the companies that will succeed, even before there was even before the wizardry of AI, the companies that were succeeding, the lessons from enterprise tell us, are the companies that embrace creativity, that they embrace authenticity, as you said, empathy, innovation, all those things. So it's the power skills that you spoke about. Stephanie, I'd love to go on forever, but we make a firm promise to people here that we get them out for 3 o'clock, because I know a lot of colleagues have classes on the hour. So just to thank you for an absolutely superb and informative talk, and especially for your generosity in being with us today, but for taking questions as well, and for taking the time out to join us. Just to say also to our colleagues who are out there, we have another speaker and another community of practice lined up, as always, the last Wednesday in the month. So our next one is the 29th of May, where we'll be back with another engaging speaker. More details on that closer to the date. And also another date for the diary, apart from our next community of practice, the 29th of May. Could I ask people to put in their diary Thursday, the 20th of June, when we're having our annual TU Dublin Enterprise Academy Future Talent Forum. And Stephanie has really set that up for us today, because the theme of that Future Talent Forum is going to be generative AI shaping the talent pipeline, hype versus reality. So that's something we'll be coming back to the discussion that Stephanie has led today. So Stephanie Prenderville, thanks very much, and thanks to all our colleagues as well, and good afternoon to everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys, and thank you so much, Brian and Mary, and for Claire, for including me in this. I really appreciate it.